are you reading the room? So you cheated. And believe me, it goes further than that. The drama really picks up from there. Hey guys, and welcome to this week's Get Ready With Me and TV. This season is the Bachelor Edition, where I basically recap, discuss, review the episode, and give my predictions of what's to come. Also, just dive deep into the drama. And also, in addition to that, every week my look is inspired by something within the episode. If you have a guess, feel free to comment below. Make it a little fun, right? So last week, there was already lots of drama on week 2, and my look was inspired by Wild West. It was the country theme because they did a lot of outdoors dates last week. It was full out country, so I went with the Wild West look. That was last week, and without further ado, let's get started with today's episode. Yes, I know, I'm here from the future. But, spoiler alert, if you have not watched The Bachelor yet, I will be discussing past episodes and this past week's episode. Last week, we left off with the whole Karl drama. We left off with Karl telling Katie that, with the whole Cody situation, with him not being there for the right reasons, he questions whether the other guys are there for the right reasons, and not only questions it, but basically flat out tells her, I feel that there are multiple men here for the wrong reason, but wouldn't tell her names, wouldn't tell her examples as to what would make him feel that way. So you straight up lied. I mean, I feel like he would have had a better chance at convincing her if she gave a name and at least gave something. But he literally was like, yeah, there's these guys that are here for the wrong reasons, but I don't want to tell you. Okay. I'd be like, so what? And then he wouldn't even tell the guys who he was talking to. And he was like, I don't want to put anybody on blast right now. And they all were like, but you already did. So you might as well come out with who you think is an issue. At first he was saying there's multiple guys. Then he was saying well, the person that knows, they knew who they are. So fess up. And then the one guy was like, I thought you said it was multiple guys. Now you're saying that one guy, so you don't even know what you're talking about. So Katie was really upset from it because that's super concerning, and that's one of her biggest fears, which I think would be anybody's. Basically says I'm not in the right state of mind to do a cocktail party anymore. We're gonna go straight to the rose ceremony, see you later. So the guys are pissed. It was immature and stupid in my opinion. Katie walks out and is clearly upset and kind of pissed off, and Greg goes and checks on her. It's honestly just seems like they're already dating. He seems almost a little bit protective of her, in a good way, and I really, really like him. I think he is the front runner for sure. If somebody else went and checked on her, you'd be like, oh, he's just going to check on her because he wants a rose. But he already had a rose. So he was doing this just because he wanted to make sure she was okay. And he just seems it almost seems like they're boyfriend and girlfriend already. And it's so cute. So yeah, so the guys are pissed that rose ceremony is coming and there's no cocktail party because some of the guys didn't even get a chance to talk to her. Karl is cornered because they keep asking him to fess up and just admit either that he was lying or say who he's talking about. Karl has walked away because he clearly has nothing to say. He's just punching the air, how guys would prepare to fight. And I'm like, are you joking me? How old are you? So anyways, rose ceremony comes and it starts with Katie talking about the Karl situation. She doesn't know what to do because she wants to believe Karl. He seems like a nice guy, and she does want the guys to be her eyes and ears in the house. That's what she would want, and the husband, somebody who's gonna look out for her. And I do 100% get that, but I'm like, come on, Katie, can you not see it? But I mean, at the same time, he's not like that in front of her, so it would be hard to decide what is true or not, you know what I mean? So rose ceremony comes, and Greg already has the one-on-one rose from his one-on-one date. Andrew S already has a group date, and Thomas already has a group date. So the first one to get a rose was David. And it's funny because when I was going through editing my video last week, I like tried to write down all the names of the people in the group date so that we all knew who was there and blah blah blah. But I remember looking through who was left from week 1 and who went on the dates. And I'm like, there's a couple people missing. And I knew that Michael didn't get a date. They made it seem like he was the only one that didn't get a date. So David was the one that I either he went on a date and we just didn't see him. Like, was he there? I don't know. Was he there? Or he just didn't get a date. David got a rose though. So clearly he's doing good enough. He's doing good enough. Hunter gets a rose. Connor C gets a rose, which is another person that we didn't see last week, but he made a comment this week that he hadn't gotten a date. So then Mike P, he gets a rose. And he goes up, and like before he walks back with his rose, he says, "I don't want to stress you out more, but the guys have come together and, you know, as a unit decided that we think Karl is lying, basically, and that he doesn't deserve to be here." In front of Karl, in front of everybody. And I think it's good that he did that because, as I said, it's hard for her to see what goes on in the house unless they tell her. And Karl's only one that's really come and told her something. So what is she supposed to do? Is either she just doesn't believe him at all or she goes with it. And so she hears what Mike says and then says like, okay. She asks like all the guys, do you guys agree? And like they all kind of nod. So she's like, okay, like what do you do with that, right? Sorry guys, I just wanted to quickly do my brows off camera. So she's like, takes a minute. She's like, okay, like give me a moment. Like, what do I do with that? To me though, if I was like gonna send Karl home, I would just be like, okay, thanks. And then I would keep it going. But she goes and talks to Tayshia and Caitlin and basically says she had planned to keep him, Karl. So she clearly didn't see that he was a liar. She had planned to keep him. She's like, now I don't know what to do. Well, the other thing I found funny was Karl had nothing to say through the whole thing. He didn't say anything. He didn't like say, what are you talking about, man? He didn't stand up for himself. He didn't like follow Katie. If that was me, let's say I had brought something up to Katie that was true, and then all the guys tried to turn Katie against me because of it, I would be like, whoa, 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 go follow Katie and be like, I want you to know, like, I'm not lying to you. I just don't want you to let that affect your decision when it comes to our relationship. Like you would do something, but he just sat there or stood there and did absolutely nothing. You look guilty, bro. She then comes back and starts handing out the roses. Michael gets a rose, which is great. She had told him that he didn't get a date because she felt their connection already was growing, which is so cute. Then Courtney gets a rose, Connor B, then Courtney, Trey, Justin, Andrew M, Christian, Josh, Brendan, and James all get a rose. So there are only a few guys left, including Karl, including Aaron, who seems to be, at first I thought Aaron was a troublemaker, which he still could be. I didn't like him week 1. I didn't like him most of last week, but then he just like doesn't take BS. And to some people, maybe that comes across as a troublemaker. And as I said, I guess we'll find out. Maybe he is. So basically, Aaron gets the last rose, which means Karl goes home. And I was like, yes, Katie, you made the right decision. You deserve to go home. And I was definitely glad to see that. It seems like Katie is very like, she's not putting up with anything. I feel like a lot of past people have just like, I don't know, I feel like a lot of the troublemakers have always skated by, and I always wondered like, do they have to keep them around? But I mean, Katie gets rid of them pretty much as soon as there's an issue. So I think that's cool. Like, I like to see that because it's nice to watch the drama, of course. It makes it entertaining, but it's also nice to just see the good guys make it. You know what I mean? So Karl goes home, and along with him is John, Kyle, and Garrett. They like say their goodbyes to like the other guys in the house. and typically go hug Katie. Like all the guys are hugging all the other guys, right? And Karl just kind of like stands there awkwardly in between Katie and the guys, just standing there like he didn't know what to do because nobody wanted to hug him or say goodbye. Like he doesn't even say goodbye to Katie. He just like is awkwardly standing there and slowly like moves out of the room and just leaves. Back at the house, they get the first date card of the week, which is the group date. On the group date will be Aaron, Courtney, James, Connor B, David, Justin, Hunter, and Brendan. All it says is, love is about honesty and I need 100%, ... And the guys commented on how it wasn't as heartfelt. Like it was a little bit cold. So I think clearly after what happened with the whole Karl situation, Katie's like, yeah, we need to get to the bottom of this, rightfully so. Number one, Katie says, you know, I have a friend here and he's gonna help me, you know, kind of get some clarity on some of the issues. Nick Viall is there. So he's been on a Bachelorette season. He's been The Bachelor. He's been on Bachelor in Paradise. Like he just cannot get away from this show. Kind of hosting this like sit down with the guys. And basically what they're doing is just kind of having like a kumbaya circle. They all sit in chairs and there's like, it's dark, the room, there's spotlights on their faces. Basically, Katie's like, you know, I'm gonna give you the chance to kind of open up about your past. And you can share, you know, maybe something that you wouldn't normally want to share, but like, let's just be open. I want to know the truth. Basically, what they're doing is sitting in a circle and all telling her what they've done wrong. And I think it's like the weirdest thing. The guys seem quite nervous. And I mean, I would be too. I mean, the guys were pretty open about it. They seemed to really go with it. They really seem to like her. I don't know. I feel like every season I'm like, really like, do all these people like really seem this into this person? You know what I mean? Like sometimes I question whether people are genuine or if they're just on the show. Whereas, yeah, there's been the few people this season, but I feel like she has a good group of guys and I feel like a lot of them really are into her. Like they already are like almost protective of her. So they really go with it and they all share something. We didn't see everybody's. They only showed a few of the guys' stories. So it started with Hunter and Hunter like immediately kind of got a little bit emotional. And he seems like a nice guy. His story basically was that he got married, thought she was the one. And they had a kid, they had a son. He basically said like, and then kind of my priorities shifted. Like, I think it meant like he really focused on work because he said like he wanted to provide for his family. He wanted to like give them everything. But then in a sense, he actually lost everything because he wasn't putting in the effort into his family, and him and his wife just drifted apart. He got divorced and he seemed quite emotional about it. And he said, you know, the reason I'm sharing this is I want you to know, like, I never thought I would ever get divorced. And so basically next time I get married, like I will cherish that forever, which was really cute. Aaron, whose dad had a stroke and he was, you know, having a hard time. And so it was really hard on him and blah, blah, blah. So he met this girl who was also kind of going through a hard time. The relationship ended up turning into almost like more of an obligation. You know, he wasn't like the man that he is, I guess, today. David basically said that he had a chance to either choose his career or a woman, and he chose his career, and basically said that sometimes he questions whether he made the right, like, did he make a mistake? And I think he meant when he said that like he shouldn't have chose a career over love. Immediately in my head, I'm like, yeah, but to me that would make me be like, so do you feel like you made a mistake with her? Like, do you want to go back with her? It was just kind of an odd, some of their stories I was like, I don't know if you should have shared it or worded it that way. Anyways, she seemed to be very open to what they were saying and like non-judgmental, which is great. Courtney said basically, he goes, I made a mistake that broke trust in the relationship, so you cheated. I mean, at least he's willing to share that. Like, that shows you know, maybe he's changed. I don't know, I guess not necessarily. And then he goes to say that now, you know, he does realize how important trust is in the relationship and he's learned from the situation. So then Thomas goes, and it's funny because like you totally can just see the story or whatever shift in the show from week to week. Like it's like they get rid of one troublemaker and all of a sudden they're focusing on one person, and it's like, was that person a troublemaker last week and they just weren't focusing on it? Or is it like all of a sudden they're acting out? Or like, is this scripted? I don't know. Sometimes I question that. All of a sudden it's like all this drama is put on Thomas and he's the center of the drama this week. It's funny because last week I thought he was one of the most mature out of the guys. He seemed like a great guy, like he had a great connection with Katie, blah, blah, blah. And then this week it's like he is a weirdo. Like he was like like all these guys are crying and emotional over sharing this really like, you know, deep, dark, like not, well, yeah, secret. And he just is like, oh, I just want to start off by saying like, I'm so glad that we have got this chance to meet and blah, blah, blah. Like that is not what you're here for, bud. Are you reading the room? And he's like smiling. And then he basically straight up admits that he came for the wrong reasons, that he came basically for fame, basically admits he came for platform. So there's that. He's like, yeah, I will admit, like when I came into this, I didn't come for the right reasons. I don't know if that's really smart to share that if you want to stick around. Basically, he says he came in thinking, I'll give it a shot. Basically, let's just go on this show. It'll be a fun time. I'll give it a shot. And if it doesn't work out, you know, I can, at least it was an opportunity that I can build a platform on. Like he even says, you know, I'm an open book. I have no secrets. Like all my red flags, I'll sit here and I'll tell you them all. And then he says, yeah, like I'll even admit I went on a date a week before I came here because I just wasn't sure where this was going to go. Like, again, there are maybe some things that you don't need to share if you want this to work out. She didn't seem too fazed by it, which surprised me. Like that would be a red flag, like right off the get-go. But the guys seemed to pick up on it. Like they were like, what is this guy doing? You just admitted you're here for fame. So it was odd. And believe me, it goes further than that. The drama really picks up from there when it comes to Thomas. Moving on, Connor B is the last one to share, like that we saw. So he's nervous. You know, when I tell her this, like I'm not the good guy in this story, he says. So, but he wants to be honest. Connor B is one of my faves. Like seriously, he's so sweet. He shares his story and he flat out like starts by saying like, I'm really nervous right now, so bear with me, but I want to share this with you. So basically he says that he was in school getting his PhD. He was miserable. He dropped out. And we saw last week that he's like musically talented when he did his funny little song. So he said he, you know, was a musician and he was playing at this bar and he was drinking for free, and it became more and more of his life. Like he was drinking a lot more as time went on, was becoming an angry drunk. His girlfriend at the time would tell him what he would say when he was drunk, and like he couldn't imagine he said that, blah, blah, blah. So then he basically says in one night his whole life changed. He was drunk. Him and his girlfriend got in a fight. He ended up leaving for the night, went to a party, got really drunk there, got high, ended up cheating on her. And obviously like he lost his girlfriend. Like he seemed really ashamed about it when he said that. So like in some ways, some people are like, you know, once a cheater, always a cheater. I think there's certain situations where that's true. I think there are people that are almost like constant cheater, like they always cheat. They've always cheated, you know. I think there are situations. I don't condone cheating at all. I think it's like one of the worst things you could do in a relationship. But what I'm trying to say is I do think there's certain situations where some people just maybe are in a bad place, or if in a toxic relationship, or there's certain situations where somebody does make that horrible mistake and then can change and never do it again. And then there's some people that really are once a cheater, always a cheater, cheat on all the time. From how he's acted and from what we've seen of him on the show, unless he's a real good actor, I do think he's genuine, and I think he's changed. He said, you know, he really felt bad about it and it really opened his eyes, and he got help, and he went to therapy, and he talked to his friends and family and tried to make amends. So he seems like he's really changed. He's recognized that that's not who he wants to be, and he never wants to be that person again. So that's cool. I just really like him. He seems like such a sweetheart. When they first started sharing their story, I originally thought, you know what? I think it would have been fair if Katie went first. To me, if I was the Bachelorette and I'm going on here and I'm expecting these men to sit here in front of not only me, but also all of these other guys, I would share first, because then that way maybe they would be like, okay, well, she did it. But then she does end up sharing, which is good. If she didn't share something, I would have been like, so you expect all these guys to sit around and share their deepest, darkest secrets, biggest mistake, but you're not going to. So she shares her story. It was 10 years ago, so it was when she was pretty young. It was New Year's Eve. She had been drinking, and she ended up being involved in a situation where there wasn't consent. I'm not gonna dive into the details of anything related to that. So, you know, if you're triggered by that topic, you know, I'm not gonna really talk about it. That's traumatizing, but she kind of blamed herself. She was too drunk. She was irresponsible, which I think happens a lot, which is really sad. And she ended up actually trying to start a relationship with this guy just because she didn't want to believe that that had happened, and that's what had happened. Basically, long story short, that situation affected her, you know, even deeper than she had realized. It affected her view on sex. She didn't want to have sex. That caused issues in her future relationships. She didn't ever even want to talk about sex, which is funny because she's now such a sex positive person. From my understanding, that's probably because she wanted to kind of take back control. Good for her. And I think that kind of hearing, you know, people's story makes you maybe respect them a little bit more. I love the saying, don't judge someone till you've walked in their shoes for a mile or whatever. And I think that's so true. Like, I think we're so quick to judge people for what they've done or what they say or what they do and blah, blah, blah. But like, do you know what's going on in their head? What's going on in their life? Blah, blah, blah. I just really thought it was brave of her to share that. And the guys seemed to receive it really well. A lot of the guys really you know, comforted her in the evening portion of the date and checked in on her. So back at the house, Michael is talking to some of the guys. And I really like Michael. At first, I didn't know how I felt about him, but I actually really like him. He's such a little sweetheart, but genuine guy, and I think he's really there for the right reasons because he's sharing with the guys, there's more to my story that I need to tell her. I've just been waiting for the right time, you know. And I said this in last week's episode. I read it on somewhere. It said that his wife had died. He was talking about this and he shared it with the guys. Michael ends up getting the one-on-one this week. Spoiler alert. Michael ends up getting the one-on-one this week, and it's just funny how, like, you see him talking, I need the time to share this story with her, and then he gets the one-on-one. Evening portion of the date, I'll share with you who I've been liking. You know, as I said, I like Connor B. I love Greg. He's one of my faves. He's just, I don't know. I like, those two are probably my favorites of all time. I really like Trey and Andrew S as well. They're both really funny, but also can get serious. And I just really think they're genuine guys. But I really actually like Justin, and I've liked him from night one. You know, he's not bad looking, but he also is really, really sweet, but also has a little bit of that like suave to him. But he also seems very mature. Now, I could be wrong because I thought Thomas was mature. And now look at what's happened this week. Don't forget to comment below who you guys are liking. And feel free to, you know, share your opinions of what happened as well. Thomas. He's like talking to her and he just does seem so fake. Katie's like, you know, you kind of have some explaining to do. So he did say, I have all these red flags and I'd be very open to sharing them with you. What are these red flags? And he totally like dodges the question, basically keeps just saying, oh, I'm so glad I met you, and like I'm really, you know, into you, and I really like you, blah blah blah. She was like, yeah, so like you kind of just dodged my question. That's great, but like what are these red flags? So he kind of dodges the question again. Like he says, you know, I'm an open book, like you can ask me whatever you want. Like he's just it was just weird. It was weird. Like it does kind of seem a little bit awkward. He's like, I need to fix this. So Aaron is kind of the one that has been a little bit more open about his feelings towards Thomas. Thomas goes and interrupts Katie and Aaron. Well, at first he kind of is just like pacing back and forth, like just like feet away from them. Like, what are you doing? Either interrupt them or don't. You could tell that like Aaron it was awkward, right? And it was like super distracting. So Thomas finally kind of comes up to them and says like, I gotta tell her something. I gotta talk to her, blah, blah, blah. At first I thought like maybe he's gonna go say, okay, you wanna know what I was talking about? Here's what I was talking about. He just goes and basically says another spiel about how he likes her. It just seems like fake. And Aaron even said, like, I thought you had something important to say. Like, I had respect for you because I thought you had something important to say. So she's going off of what she's experiencing. I think the guys are right when they say that he is a good manipulator. Like, I think he really can talk his way out of a situation, and that's what he did. The guys are pissed. So this is how I kind of felt it seemed. It was almost like he like didn't know what to say when they were talking the first time, right? Was caught off guard, didn't really say much, and then kind of went back and rehearsed something in his head, planned what he needed to say, just put on this performance and reeled her back in. And that's what he did. And they kind of confront him. What was so important that you needed to take time to talk to her a second time when some of us didn't even talk to her once? Like, how is that fair? Basically tells the guys that he told Katie that he was falling in love with her, which number one, he didn't do. So he lied about that. Aaron stands up to Thomas. He kind of said like, you know, like, is your time more important than my time? Because like, I was also telling her how I felt. So what's the difference? What you could have told her when you had your time with her? Like, no. Thomas basically straight up says, I do think my time is more important. He's just cocky now. And Michael, as I said, is the one that gets the one-on-one. Katie like drives in a side-by-side, and then she like flips the side-by-side. They go on this like adventure. Then they kind of just have this little like picnic in the desert. I don't know. He seems super nervous, and I think it was because he did plan on telling her his story, and I think he was nervous about it, which is cute. So back at the house, the guys are all basically just talking about Thomas, and they're all pissed. Hunter, who actually like kind of sits down with Thomas and explains like, you need to understand that, like, he stands up to him. How you did that was wrong, and it rubbed people the wrong way. How he's acting is inappropriate, and it's gonna backfire. Back on the date, this is like the evening dinner portion of the date, he finally tells her his story. You know, he explains there's more explanation that comes with my story. So he says, you know, 16 years ago, he met his wife, and, you know, he was like, she's the one, dating her, getting married, they have a baby. He's like, life is great, life is perfect, blah, blah, blah. Then 7 months after we had our baby, she was diagnosed with breast cancer, and he gets emotional, obviously, and he shares with her that, you know, they traveled literally all over the state trying to find a cure for her, somebody that could help, and unfortunately she did die 2 years ago. He knows what it is to really love somebody, and it took him a long time, but he finally feels like he's ready to open up his heart again. I would be definitely intimidated by that. I would feel like you're never going to stop loving her. It's not like she cheated on you. It's not like you just drifted apart and got divorced. Like, she died and you were in love with her. She seems very appreciative that he would share that. But he also does share, you know, like, in a relationship, it would be my job to ensure that you feel that our love would be very unique and it's different, which I think would be the only way that a relationship with him would work. She seemed to really understand it and be very, very mature about it. I really like Michael. They seem quite into each other. She basically said again that she could be falling for Michael, that she feels like she could really see their love. So again, the house is upset about Thomas. Aaron thinks he's a psycho. They kind of confront him again, and Hunter really seems to be stepping out of his shell a little bit. You were kind of caught in a lie, because he told the guys, told her he was falling in love with her. Then he denied it. And then he told somebody again that he said he was falling in love with her. So like, get your story straight, bud. You know, we think that you're kind of manipulative, straight up admitted you're not here for the right reasons. So like, what are you doing here, man? And so they basically ask him like straight up, have you thought of being the Bachelor? Is that why you're here? And he says basically yes. That's the end of the episode. The next on seems like quite a bit of drama, a lot of Thomas drama. Everybody's basically pissed. Everybody's freaking out. Everybody's worried that he's manipulating her, and he knows how to talk to you and reel you in. You're not seeing all of the lies. To me though, what he shared on that date of how he came in with the wrong intentions, that would have been a red flag already. Blake comes. So see Tayshia talking to Katie saying like, somebody from my past has come. And I remember in the preview for the season, you see that Blake comes and he's like, you know, I really am interested in Katie and I want a chance to get to know her and I like have to. And I love Blake. I really like him. I don't necessarily like when people do this, like the whole Heather situation last season. I think if you actually thought somebody was that great that you want to interrupt the whole show, then wouldn't you DM them? Why wouldn't you just message her? I don't know. Sometimes I think this show is scripted. Well, it has to be somewhat scripted. Do they have to legally do whatever they say? I don't know. Is Blake genuinely interested in Katie? Who knows? I like Blake, but I think that it's so dramatic when people just come on the show and like interrupt. But I think that Blake will stay for at least a week. I think he's gonna get a rose for a week. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to guess what this look is inspired by. Might have something to do with Michael and Katie's date. So anyways, yeah, that's the end of today's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to comment below your thoughts, your predictions. Who are your favorite contestants? Don't forget to subscribe so you can follow along with this series. Watch The Bachelorette on Monday and come back next Thursday for my next episode of Get Ready With Me in TV. I do also post on Mondays and Saturdays. So thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.